Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, want to have a little bit of fun with you today and just talk about random stuff that I find when looking through Hack Wilson. This is sort of a shout out to Not Guy Eddie, who I interact with quite a bit on Twitter, who likes to talk from time to time about RBIs. I don't know if this is really the right place to have a conversation about whether RBIs are a meaningful statistic or not. I will say, though, that when you're presented with an opportunity, it does pay to be able to, make contact with the ball and actually drive a runner in, as opposed to striking out 150 to 200 times a season. At least in my personal opinion, it might be helpful if you do that. We'll take a quick look here, though, at Hack Wilson, because there's some pretty interesting stuff to say that I just realized as I started to take a look at this. So here you go. Here's Hack in all of his glory. I guess I didn't realize he did start his career off with the New York Giants. Didn't play so well, and then wound up with the Cubs, where he was basically an absolute all-star with the exception of 31, and then, of course, went to Brooklyn, and that was kind of the end of it, as was the case with so many guys. Go over to Brooklyn and watch everything fall apart. 1930, though, is a season we want to talk about, right? This season with the record 191 RBIs, which is just absolutely incredible. I mean, you consider, especially, it came in 709 plate appearances, right? It's not like this guy had a whole bunch of extra plate appearances because of some weird thing that was going on in the league at the time or something like that. Just somebody looking at this and glancing will notice that he led the league in walks, and then led all of the major leagues in strikeouts, which is pretty interesting. But yes, more walks than strikeouts for him in 1930, and I think you could really argue that a lot of his success was due to these walks, or it may have also been the other way around. In fact, I actually haven't done this, but we might be able, if we take a look around. I'm not sure if there's intentional walk. Oh, you know what? It is. It's right here. There is intentional walk information in 1930, and he was only walked intentionally 6 times. So maybe something going on with the batting. I am not 100% sure, but interesting to note anyway. So just for fun, I decided to start looking at these splits. And, I've already talked about like right-handed versus left-handed pitcher performance. The thing I was saying before about that, at least when it comes to simulators, you can see this right here, right? I mean, the plate appearances against left-handed batters or pitchers, there's 168 of them. It is so low that, like, it's not really ever going to be significant for you, right? I mean, I'm just thinking in Diamond Mine off the top of my head right now, Dom DiMaggio probably has about 120 or so plate appearances. He's hitting like 420, right? I mean, you don't have to go and do the math. You can just think about what you've experienced, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's the reason why single season platoon splits are probably not really that meaningful or important. You think he took advantage of Wrigley Field maybe a little bit, right? His OPS is definitely higher in Wrigley Field, but this is insane no matter where you are. Big slugging percentage, lots of home runs, of course, and also fairly good at getting doubles. And so that's just the thing, right? He hit with a lot of power. He walked a lot, but then the other big thing is that he hit the ball, right? His strikeout total, while apparently high enough to lead the league, was probably about half of what you see from players these days, which should tell you something, right? And that may or may not have had something to do with his RBI figures. There's some really cool things when we go through these statistics. I mean, stuff like this. Leading off the inning, for example, he had 351, 442, 685. I mean, most of this he's just going to hit, well, no matter what happens, right? Okay, with 2 outs, he fell off a little bit, right? I mean, even then, this is a really good line, right? I mean, the guy was absolutely on fire. This, though, is the part where I think it becomes kind of fun, right? So what you realize here, and I didn't know this until I looked this up literally a few seconds ago, is that most of the time when Wilson was coming up, he had just a guy on first base. Sometimes maybe a little bit men on second base or runners on first and second. But stuff like coming over the bases loaded only happened to him 17 times in the season. And he had a whopping 133, 177, 200. So that's his weakness. Make sure you load the bases. Isn't that interesting? Sort of thing that you probably would not anticipate. Also, interestingly enough, for all this talk about RBIs potentially being a clutch statistic, if there were runners in scoring position with 2 outs, he only had 110 plate appearances like that, but he's hitting 264, 418, 517, which is not tremendous, right? So, I mean, there were times when you really had to bear down on him that he would get you out. I'll tell you about Hack Wilson. He was definitely an opportunity hitter, when everybody was piling it on, he would absolutely bring on the damage, up by 4, up by more than 4, up by 3, right? That's where Hack Wilson was living that season, and that's where he had a lot of these big games. I guess I should say within, right? This is within, so it includes 4, 3, 2, and 1, and so on. But yeah, in games in which they had a lead of over 4 runs, that's where he really, really laid down the hammer. Really, really interesting stuff to see. See if there's anything else here that really stands out. Yep, not so good against power pitchers. So those of you who want to talk about, your velocity rates can go and cite that one. Interesting stuff. One of these things I do want to put a big caveat in here, game conditions, this really should eventually be split between like morning games and actual afternoon games. We've talked about this before. By 1930, you still are not really seeing the 1:30 p.m. type starting time. I'm not certain that so many Cubs games started at 3 though, but the truth is that I haven't really spent a whole lot of time researching this. And where he hit the best was in the Baker Bowl. Well, I think everybody hit well there. There's a whole nother thing to talk about in the Baker Bowl when it comes to 1930. I noticed this when I was doing the national pastime research and starting to really look into the stats. The Phillies had a really, really poor pitching staff in a park that was an extreme hitter's ballpark. And so that is why he was hitting like 500. Right. And he only had 5 home runs there, but he was just absolutely torturing the Phillies when he was in Philadelphia. So interesting stuff to look at. The other thing I want to show you here is if you're looking at like where do these RBIs come in, you'll see here right away, why this may not necessarily be a clutch thing. Right, because when we take his game log here and we go sort it by the games that he had the most RBIs in, he had 6 RBIs in this win against the Cardinals, 16-4. He had 6 in this win against the Phillies, 17-4. They beat the Pirates 16-4, and he had 5. They beat the Phillies. Was it's 21-8 and he had 5, and they beat the Phillies 16-2 and he had 5. If you're looking here for a game that is not a complete blowout that he did something big in, it would probably be this loss to the Cardinals where he only had 3 RBIs, right? That's really what this season was like for Hack Wilson. If you really want to know what this was, it was him staying in the ball game when the score was ridiculous and just sort of piling on the pressure. I mean, we can take a real quick look at this too. Actually, as you can see, I haven't even looked at these yet. We can take a quick look, and yep, look at that. They didn't take him out at all. Only 3 at-bats in this game. That's pretty interesting. And managed to get 6 RBIs. So that's actually a little bit odd. I'm not quite certain that I know how that worked out. This is the reason why, because he had 2 home runs, and he also had 2 sacrifice flies. So that's the way that you do it. You drive a run in almost every single time that you're up to bat, 3 for 3. When you look at this game here against the Phillies, and I mean, we could go down and look through everything, but there he hits a home run, gets 2 doubles, and he goes 4 for 5. Anyway, this is one of those things I want to show you, and let you think about. One of the things, look, there's nobody struck out on the Cubs for that entire game. Pirates against the Cubs. I know that this is sort of like, this is sort of like just, picking and choosing, whatever it is we want to talk about. It's not truly a random sample and all that stuff, but you will notice that in these games in which he is driving in numerous runs, he's not striking out. He's making contact with the ball, and that's what is doing it. He had he hit for a cycle in this game. I think he did. Yeah, double, triple, home run, and a single in this one against the Phillies that they won 21-8. And we'll take a quick look at this one as well, the 16-2 victory in which he had 3 home runs. So, that'll get your RBI total up in a hurry. Now, does one thing cause another? I don't know. We could go through and we could take a real deep look here at, exactly how things transpired and all this stuff. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. I'm not really that interested in this right now. I do just want to say, though, that you will notice, and you'll notice this if you start doing this type of research throughout baseball history, that the guys who end up getting huge amounts of RBIs and who do very positive things for their team tend to be guys who don't go up and strike out all the time, right? So there you have it. That's just a real little thing that I want to say, and we'll leave it at that for today. I will talk with you tomorrow. Bye.